Hello and welcome. I'm Liz Booker, literary aviatrix, and I'm thrilled to celebrate the launch of a new picture book, Helo Girls, the Firefighting Pilot.
Reason to stay on ground. Lift your hands and you can touch and fly.
Kodey Bogart, welcome.
Thank you, Liz. I'm happy to be here with you.
I'm so excited to talk to you about this book. Can you give us a synopsis and maybe do a reading?
I would love to. So the book is an inaugural book. It's my first one of a series, and it's called Helo Girls. And it just so happens that the first one is a firefighting pilot named Abby, and I'm happy to do a reading, just starting at the beginning of the book. Let me get to the page here. So it starts out, "Hi, my name is Abigail, but you can call me Abby. Welcome to the team. We're glad you're here. What is your name?" And then there's a spot for the kid to write in their name if they choose to. Next, let me introduce you to the crew. After that, we can start with a mission brief. "Hey everyone, this is," hopefully the kid says their name. My son does. "They will be on our team today. The crew includes mechanics, air traffic controllers, ground support personnel, and ground firefighters. To ensure we make smart, safe decisions for our flight, we use an acronym called PAVE. P is for pilot. The pilot is the person flying the helicopter. I'm your pilot, and I am prepared and excited about our mission. I'm feeling great, and I've already taken care of our pre-flight preparations, so we are good to go. A is for aircraft. This is the helicopter we're flying. We will fly a helicopter that has the performance we need. We have looked it over to ensure it meets safety requirements. V is for environment. This has to do with the weather and visibility. We are flying in clear weather conditions over rolling hills. E is for external pressures. These are things that create challenges for our flight. Our operation is to help ground crews put out fires with our water bucket. That is our challenge. We need your help to locate the fire and water sources off in the distance so we can fill our bucket. You are our observer. Can you locate the fire off in the distance? You found it. Great job. Now we have the fire located. Let's find a source of water nearby. You found it. Great job. Let's fill our water bucket at the lake you found. But first, we have to make sure the area is safe by completing a reconnaissance, also known as a recon. We need to go through our recon checklist to determine whether the area is safe for us to descend and fill our water bucket. First, we must identify where the wind is coming from. Where do you think it's coming from and why? Good. We can see that the wind is moving to the east based on the movement of the clouds and the trees and the way the flag is waving. Is the area clear of obstacles or hazards? Do you see any? Great job. We see the birds on the far side of the lake and the set of power lines. We want to maintain a safe distance from those. We also see that the water looks calm. Now that we've identified the obstacles and a clear path in and out, we're ready to fill our water bucket.
Oh, that's perfect. That's so great. Oh my gosh. And it's here's what I love about it is that, first of all, that you made it interactive, that you bring the reader in as
absolutely.
an actual crew member, that you're briefing them as a crew member to be a part of the team for the flight. And you're very accurate in the steps and the things that we're thinking about as helicopter pilots, but without being super heavy-handed about it. It's not very wordy, and you're using some decently large words. You explain them, but I think it's great. It's such a great way to bring children in to our operations. I cannot wait to hear about the inception behind the whole idea of doing this book and what else you have in mind. But before we get into that, I definitely want to hear about you and your career, because you are a helicopter pilot. Is that correct?
I've been flying for almost 20 years. I actually started out as a military aviator in 2004 when I went through flight school. Then I went straight into the Black Hawk flying medical evacuation missions.
So Army.
Yeah, absolutely. So Army Warrant Officer. Definitely wanted to stay in the aircraft and not end up behind a desk over time. So the Warrant Officer Corps really worked well for me and how I am, my style. But after I got out of the military in 2009, I actually went to a flight training school, because everywhere I tried to get a job, people were like, "Hey, you don't understand power management. You've been flying this big helicopter." And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to do now. So I actually went and got my CFI and double I in a Schweitzer 300, which is a very small aircraft, and it transfers power via 8 V belts. And it was so simple that it was a challenge sometimes to wrap my head around. But it was a fun and resilient aircraft to learn on. And then I taught for a couple years, and then I was offered a position with a local sheriff's office. So I went and flew law enforcement and air ambulance under a Part 135 certificate. So that was a lot of fun. I super enjoyed that. And that's given me some materials for the follow-on books that I have all planned out up in my brain. From the law enforcement place, I actually went back to the flight school, and I went back to manage our contract students. So all of our students that come from Bristow, Nigeria, Trinidad, Tobago, the Ghana Air Force, things like that. And with that, I kind of moved into a chief pilot role. So I did that again for a few more years. And then I went back to that same law enforcement agency, and I flew intermittently. So while I was doing other things and other jobs, I'd fly, 4 or 5 times a month as needed, based off of their scheduling and if people needed leave. So that was really nice for me to continue in that mission profile for a few years. And then only about a year and a half ago, I decided to stop flying and focus full time on my business and working on the book series.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. Okay, I have so many questions. So first of all, as a child, did you know you wanted to be a pilot, and why helicopters? Why the Army?
No, I did not actually always want to be a pilot. In fact, I'd never even thought about it as a kid. Either didn't know it was an option, or I just didn't even cross my mind. I actually grew up thinking I was going to be an art professor. So I loved art. I loved painting, watercolor, sculpting. I liked junk sculpting, all sorts of stuff. So I just kind of thought that was my direction. When I was in high school, I was actually offered a full scholarship to the New York Art Institute. And I turned it down because I was like, I'm going to go to Chicago. And so I went and visited Chicago, and I realized I am not a city girl. I like greener pastures. So I decided to not do that. During this time, my brother actually joined the Navy, and he was my best friend growing up. And I just wanted to be near my brother. So I enlisted in the delayed entry program in the Navy when I was in high school. At graduation, or just before graduation, I got my first real boyfriend, if you will, and he was in the Army Guard. And I thought we were going to be together forever. So I stopped the delayed entry with the Navy, and I actually enlisted in the Florida Army National Guard. But so that's kind of that journey. I think what's worked for me is, you can fly helicopters and still draw and still paint, but it's really hard to be an artist and paint and draw and still be able to fly helicopters. So it kind of worked out.
Wow, that's so fascinating. Oh my gosh. Okay, and then so did you deploy while you were on active duty? Like, what were the years that you served?
Yeah, so I actually joined the Florida Army National Guard in 1997. I did a couple of other different jobs before I became a helicopter pilot. I went on a morale flight, and I was like, this is it. I love this, only to find out that my eyesight was not where it needed to be a pilot in the military. So I was doing some human resources work with the Florida National Guard, and everybody knew that I wanted to be a pilot, but it just wasn't in the cards at the time. So a gentleman who's my mentor to this day, he came up to me and he let me know that the Army and the Navy were getting together for a study program for pilots to have refractive surgery, so either LASIK or PRK. So I was so excited. I applied to the study. I was accepted. The Navy did my eye surgery. I did all my flight aptitude testing and physicals.
Wait, hold on. I just want to say, that you were part of that study is amazing, because that opened the opportunities up to so many otherwise qualified candidates who never had an opportunity to fly before. I was in officer personnel management for the Coast Guard later, like 10 years later. And it was because of that work that you did that we were able to offer so many more opportunities to go to flight school. That's just amazing. That's really cool that you got that opportunity.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear that from the other end, because, I never got to see how that worked out for anybody. So I actually love hearing that. So thank you.
Yeah. No. And, as the person who was selecting people for flight school, we had a much more robust candidate pool because all of these people who wouldn't have been qualified before were.
Yeah, really neat. And then, so what they would do is I was in flight school is they would look at my test scores, things like that. I would often go in for physical or eye exams, right, to see how things are looking. And like halfway through flight school, it was approved, and I didn't have to do that anymore. So I was, really excited first to be done with that. But, to have that opportunity to not only pave the way for myself, but other people is Yeah, that's really nice. Before I actually went away to flight school, I knew that my National Guard unit was going to deploy, and I knew when, or like a roundabout time with what that looks like. So I knew as soon as I'd finished flight school, I'd only be home for a couple months before going over to Iraq, and that's exactly what happened, which I anticipated. And I was actually eager to do. As a medevac pilot, you really want to help not only your soldiers but your NATO allies as well. So I was in Iraq in 2006 and 2007, which was really neat. So we were a medical evacuation team, and what they do is you have like your main operating base, and they send forward teams, if you will. So we were a forward support medical team, and we had 3 aircrafts. Sometimes that would flux between what was up and available at certain times, but we had one. I was in at Diwania, and then we had another in Al Qut, another group, and so that's kind of how that worked for us. We flew in and out of Baghdad with most of our patients. Unless there was like a head or neck injury, we'd fly them even further north up to Balad. But I really enjoyed that time. I grew a lot. I learned a lot about myself, my leadership styles or lack thereof sometimes. But it was a really exciting time for me, not only, just as a brand new aviator, but as, a female aviator. And then I was just so eager. So I worked so hard. The military is very different than the civilian world when it comes to pilot in command. So you're not like officially pilot in commands. Even if you're the sole manipulator of the flight controls. For my unit, it was around 500 hours, and then you had to do check rides with, the maintenance test pilots or the instructor pilots, and then ultimately the senior standardization pilots before that was even a thing. So it was really exciting for my unit. I was the only female to be pilot in command for day, night, and night vision goggle operations. So it's really exciting for me, but I geek out on that stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. And so then you talked about these transitions to smaller aircraft. Yeah, I was going to say, we have 60s in the Coast Guard too. And if those who are watching can see, I pulled out my little model of a 65, which we joke about 60 pilots too, because we're torque limited in that aircraft. And so, 60 pilots would just crank an armful of collective and over torque the plane in a second, and we're very delicate. So yeah,
we would never do that.
Oh yeah, no, it happened for real. And even the Army pilots that came over who had been flying the big ones. So yeah, that's really great. And then, so tell me about flying for the sheriffs. Were these all single pilot operations, night, IMC, or were you, dual pilot? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So when I was at the sheriff's office, actually is a single pilot operation. We had 3 Bell 407s. I say it wasn't single pilot, but not single crew, right? So I had a task force observer, my TFO with me, who would also EMS, like an EMS certificate is what they have, right? So that if we have law enforcement calls, they're running the cameras, the FLIR system, all of that, and do the recordings. And they'll often help, where to direct stuff with a laser. So like I could see where I needed to look if I wasn't on the same target as them. In addition, so if we had Part 135 air ambulance calls, then they would go to the back with the patient and work on them while we flew back to the hospital. But yeah, single pilot operations.
Yeah, so it's so funny. In the Coast Guard, we kind of joke about, like, for example, I was flying with an Army pilot. A third of the pilots in the Coast Guard come from other services, mostly the Army, and there are a lot of warrant officers who come in. I was flying not with a warrant. He was a former commissioned officer in the Army, and it was some of his first flights at our unit in San Francisco. And we had this weird tasking to go up into a valley to assess salmon spawning. So, one of our missions in the Coast Guard is environmental protection and marine life and that kind of thing. So we would help out with those kinds of things. And this guy, of course, as an Army pilot, is very comfortable flying around mountains and getting really tight in the valley with the terrain. And I'm like white knuckling it. I'm like, okay, I'm the aircraft commander. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with this. Let's back up from the mountain a little bit. Like it's going to reach out and bite me. And then the next day we're in the aircraft and we're over the water. And we hover at 25 feet, mostly 30 to 25 feet over the water to do our hoisting and drop down below 15 feet to deploy the swimmer if they're going to just do a free fall. And this guy was terrified. So I have a lot of respect for pilots who are flying, because as a sheriff's pilot or as an EMS pilot, who are flying, sometimes single pilot at night in terrain around cities and stuff like that. There's just a lot going on, and so all the respect for you being able to do that and do that safely. So
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I have one lucky thing about that is I'm in Florida and it's very flat. It's towers,
True.
guy
Yes.
wires. That's the main obstacles right there. Wildlife, birds. But
Yeah. That's right. That's right. I flew, for 4 years out of Miami, and I'm down here too. So yeah, I know what you mean. Not a lot of mountains coming out to bite you. That's just good.
right.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite case or a mission that you look back on fondly and with a lot of satisfaction and are proud of that you want to share?
I mean, I have a couple missions that stand out. I have 2 air medals and a Sikorsky Rescue Award for a lot of the work that we did when we were overseas. There are a couple of missions that make me a little bit emotional, but I think the thing that I mainly derive from all of those is really just the teamwork that it comes from being on a multi-crew. My unit where I was at, we would fly. We were the only unit in Iraq that would fly a single ship. So if we could not get gunship support, we would go regardless. And I think a lot of those ethos, trying to do things the best as we could, are the way we worked as a team, right? That stood out to me the most. At no point when a crew came back from a medical mission did they have to refit their aircraft. Did they have to get soda or coffee or anything? Like we took care of everything for them to allow them to decompress, to debrief, and to recalibrate for themselves, before they accepted another mission. So I don't have one specific right now. It's just more of they all just kind of meld together. I do remember flying at the sheriff's office. So we were in a Bell 407, which is not an IFR certificated aircraft, where these ones were not. I was actually going on a mission with my TFO and a medic, and I knew weather was going to be coming in. It was a potential issue. So I was like, let's go do one patrol flight now while it's good. Let's just go check out the county weather. I briefed the weather to my TFO. We discussed it, and I was like, hey, I want your help to incite it. So we moved south. We flew south of the airports. I didn't go too far, just something to still get a patrol flight in to support the ground officers. And so we would continually look back. Now we're under night vision goggles, right? So we're continually looking back at the airport. And I was like, I've not seen any clouds move in, because by the time you see clouds and stuff, I'm sure you're familiar, under night vision goggles, it's probably already too late, right? So you're already in a little bit of it. So I started to get like a little hazy, and I was starting to get the glow around the lights that happen when there's more moisture in the air with the night vision goggles. And so we just turned back to go to the airport. And I swear by the time we got to the airport, we were in IMC, right? So not an IFR aircraft. Luckily, I study a lot. I happen to love instrument flight rules when I was teaching, so I was constantly in that mentality. So I had us over the airports, and I was like, hey, I can still see the lights on the airport, so I'm just going to do just a nice slow descend towards those lights. I can see, some of the runway. But we got to a point, and I was like, you know what? We're just gonna commit. So I just leveled the wings, climbed at altitude, up out of the clouds, and then just headed over to the hospital in Daytona. It landed there. But I think that's probably memorable to me. A lot of pilots just don't like to commit to IFR. Maybe they just haven't done it in a long time, or their training's not up to where they feel it should be. And they don't trust their instruments maybe, but I was just so happy to commit. Like I was so comfortable, like, what am I doing here? Let's just level the wings. Let's just fly the aircraft up out. Let's go somewhere else and wait for it to clear. A really good decision that day. And my medic, he was like, oh, we were so close. I was like, yeah, but it's just not worth it. No, let's just go hang out at the hospital. We can get some really good food and
exactly
live another day.
That's amazing. Exactly right. And fly again tomorrow.
Yep.
That's so good. So as an instructor, I know I'm springing all these questions on you, but we haven't had a chance to talk before. So as an instructor, what makes a really great helicopter student pilot?
That's a really good question. A lot of the students I initially flew with had English as a second language. So I think for me personally as an instructor, it was patience. But when it comes to a student, you can have the will to do it all day long, but that gets you nowhere. But if you don't put the effort in to study, to actually do some chair flying, put a poster up on the wall of what the switches look like, get in an aircraft that might be, just sitting out on the ramp, and just talk yourself through things. And, I think just being dedicated and immersed. I think the students who found themselves more immersed, they weren't too busy or inundated without going in town to party or socializing. They just like I was at flight school. I was so immersed in it, right? And I think that
Right.
worked really well for students too. Um, when I was a chief flight instructor, right? So I had all my flight instructors were male, but they would obviously have female students. And it was always a joke to me. So if they had a female student who was having a bit of a challenge, I'd be like, let me fly with her. It'll be great. And so I kind of do this little debrief of what I'm going to do with their student. So so me and the girl were sitting, we sit in the aircraft together, and I was like, listen, I'm going to give you the best advice I can give you as a pilot, especially a female. And I was like, don't fly like a man. I was like, fly like a girl. And I was like, we are soft, methodical, gentle. We don't jerk the controls. It was really just like an ego boost. I think it was fun, to just bash a little bit sometimes and joke around. But the students, who definitely immersed themselves and really gave it their all, I think were the best. But there are times where I had to send students home who were even still doing that, and that becomes a different emotional challenge, right? Because you don't want someone to become a pilot who you think can harm other people in the long run. So full immersion.
Yeah. I love that little example that you gave. Early in my career, I had somebody who was not, it was very intentional that he was insulting me. I think I was timid turning away from a ship after a takeoff or something like that. And he said, stop flying like a girl. And, but the aircraft that we flew was really, really sensitive, like I talked about with both torque and with the hydraulics. I mean, if you try and do the kind of stuff that Army pilots do, like returns to target and that kind of thing in this aircraft, and you are not skilled, you are going to probably cavitate some hydraulics and get control lockup, and possibly kill your crew. So it is actually a benefit to fly pretty gently in this aircraft. And the only time I've ever reversed that is when I was with a good friend of mine, and I joke about it to this day because it's the only time I've ever said anything like this. But he just was like jerking his plane around, and I don't know, he was doing these really rough landings. I was like, can you stop flying like a boy, please?
That's right. Give it back to him.
Yeah, like you're beating this aircraft up. Calm down. Yeah, that's so funny.
Little ease and gentleness goes a long way.
Yeah, especially in a helicopter, and especially in one that requires a little more careful management for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, that's really cool. All the respect to you for all of your helicopter experience. It's amazing and so exciting to have somebody with your credibility and your experience bring that to books for children to draw them in. So tell me about this journey and the inception behind this book and where it's going. Tell me all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a daughter who is now 12. So, of course, being a mom who flies helicopters, I was so excited to get all these books for my daughter about helicopters, just to get that bug and plant that seed within her. And so when I started researching books, again, like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I couldn't find things that I really liked a whole lot. One book I ended up buying, it came from I bought it used. It was like from the 1960s. It was a cute book, but it was about a dog who heard a noise. And like, is it a bird? Is it a mosquito? And at the very end, we find it was a helicopter. But at the time, I really couldn't find a lot of good helicopter books. And I didn't care about the gender or anything about it. I just wanted something with helicopters in it, but for young children. And so that was a bit of a challenge. Transitioning forward, I have a son who's now 6. And again, when he was born, I was like, I need some helicopter books. And so I found one book and I really liked it. It was really cute. One thing I guess I didn't care for a whole lot in it was some of the technical aspects. For example, the female pilot was excited about that, but she was also the one who was hoisted down to save the patient, which is a cute little puppy dog. But I was like, I don't know what that's teaching my kid. Like, yes, I understand autopilot and hover holds and all that, but that's just didn't make sense for me. I still purchased the book. He still loves it. It's really cute. But in my brain, I was like, I wanted more technical aspects. I wanted it to be like it really is. And so for me, that's kind of what started that journey. And then I have such a hard time falling asleep. It's usually like an hour and a half. I get very frustrated with my husband. He lays down 2 seconds later, he's out, but I'm just sitting there and I think. And so over time, I've just kind of told myself these stories. And so I just thought, man, I should do something with this. So
Okay. And then how'd you go about doing it? Like you just wrote it, or did you get some training on how to write books for children? Like, cause it kind of feels like you may have. So tell me all about that.
completely. So just talking with my husband, and for a couple years, and I was like, oh, I just really would like to do this. And maybe it's, that's on my bucket list, right? That's something I want to do. I want to write a children's book about helicopter missions. And so I don't remember who I was talking to, and I just mentioned it. They're like, oh, it's a really good idea. And I was like, yeah, it is a great idea. I need to do this. And so I started to just do some personal research. Like I have no clue what's required, what's needed, what does it take, what's it look like, what's it smell like, right? I have no idea. So, I was looking at big publishers, and I was like, man, they're so hard to get into. And then you have to hire someone to help manage you to get you into those people, to even let them see your manuscripts before, even know if you have a chance to work with them. So I was like, that kind of,
Yeah.
I don't really like that.
An
I don't
agent.
have that time.
Yeah.
I don't have that patience. And then, you obviously got to compensate that person. For a full publisher, they actually own the rights to the book. So if there's something that they want to change over time, they can. I didn't like that because I'm very structured in how I think about things. I had an acquaintance, he did a book and he self-published it. And I was like, well, that sounds like a lot of work too. Like, I don't want to draw everything, and I don't want to do all the marketing, and I don't want to print it and bind it. I don't even know where to go for that. So that's too much time for me. So I looked at hybrid publishing. So I searched up a couple companies who were hybrid publishers. So, and that's exactly what I chose to go with a company called Blue Balloon, the parent or a subset company of Ballast Books. So Blue Balloon is all their children's books. And I really liked, yes, I own 100% of the book. I could take it anywhere with me when I want to go. If I don't want to stay with them, which I'm very happy with them, I don't intend on making any changes there. But I retain the rights to my book. I could change whatever I want. So I like that. They offer a whole bunch of different illustrators. And so what they did was they just sent me a portfolio of like all these people or their illustrations. And I was like, oh, I really like this one. I like this one. I picked about 5 or 6. And I was like, if you could ask them to draw, a female helicopter pilot and a helicopter. And I just wanted to see what their flair was on that. And then one young lady, she did a wonderful job. And so that's where I ended up with who I have today. But, the hybrid publishing for me, again, works out. They offer a certain amount of marketing, and I could go above and beyond that, which I do. They offer, they do the binding, the shipping, all that stuff. So I don't have to worry about any of that, which I'm thankful for. But
Yeah.
super happy with how that looks on a hybrid published piece.
Well, all of that is wonderful to hear. I have talked about this before, especially for the writers who have listened to sort of my more focused writing conversations. I earned my Master of Fine Arts in Writing for Children and Young Adults. And so I was immersed in this world where pretty much everybody was beholden to the traditional publishing industry. So all of the advice I got was that in order to get my book into the hands of young readers, I absolutely had to go traditional publishing. And as through this project, and talking to so many authors, and also to an owner of a hybrid publishing company, I have discovered that, what? I don't know about all that. I don't know that I want to give the rights of my book to a publisher. I don't know if I really like the idea of them, getting 90% or 85 to 90% of the sale.
Right.
And especially when honestly, like I would have to pay probably for my own marketing and publicity on my own anyway, regardless.
Right.
So it's very inspiring to see people like you put together and I've had a sneak peek at the book, and for those who are watching, we'll make sure that they get to actually see the pictures on the screen when you do the reading at the beginning. So it's really wonderful and inspiring to see somebody put together a very high quality book with beautiful art, and do it in a polished way, so that your book can definitely get into the hands of lots of young readers. So my question, if you don't mind sharing, is what is the percentage take that the publisher is going to get on sales, and then also are they getting it into like libraries, and what's the distribution like?
Yeah, so it's 80-20. So I get 80%, they retain
Perfect.
20%. So that's really nice. Again, it's all
Yep.
mine. So if I want to change or whatever, I can. They do all the
Yep.
distribution, so it'll be all in the brick and mortars, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Books a Million, things like that.
There you go.
I've recently reached out to them because I have an interest in doing an audiobook of it. So we'll see what that looks like. And they just, hey, what do you envision for that? I'm like, I picture audio, I imagine audio noises like of a helicopter or water splashing when the bucket touches the water. And that's kind of near to my heart. My grandfather he lived with me and my dad when I was real little. Well, I say real little, it was probably sixth through ninth grade. But he was blind. And so I remember him just getting tapes from the library all the time and just listening to his audiobooks. I was like, I'd like to do that for a kid who might not have the opportunity to fly. So how cool would it be to immerse them in a book to just get a small glimpse of what it might be like?
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, yeah, I can't wait to see how that plays out for you and to download that and listen to it too. That's so great. So this first book was this fire rescue, and it didn't sound to me, as you told me about your career history, that you ever did this mission. Did you?
Yeah, so not in a full like fire. I've done water bucket work before. It's mostly training. I've done sling load training.
Okay.
So I've actually never physically gone and done the mission. I've just trained for it. I don't know why firefighting came to mind first, especially over air ambulance, because that's where my passion is. And then obviously law enforcement as well.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I thought I would just maybe nitpick those too much. And this just seemed like I could get it from a really nice high level aspect. But my son is all in on the next one. He has begged me that it's going to be law enforcement. So I'm working on that one in my head right now.
And is this pilot going to continue to be our same pilot? It's called Helo Girls. So is it plural, right? Are we going to have
Correct.
more other characters?
So each book will be a different helicopter mission and then a different girl. I just want to show, I don't know, just some diversity. And if there's all types of girl pilots, there's all types of pilots. You don't have to put the word girl in front of it. But the next one for law enforcement is going to be Selma. She's a Brazilian Mediterranean
Nice.
descent. Yeah, then after that is Zuri, which is an Eastern African name that I fell in love with. So those are the two girls. I've already kind of pictured what they're going to look like as far as the hairstyles. I'm going to try to stick with the theme of the braids because that's how I always had my hair back in braids.
Yeah.
But yeah, different girls all the way through. And then my best friend Michelle, she told me the other day that I needed to get them some pet animals. So I think maybe at some point in the future, Abby might have to have a Dalmatian dog or something.
Oh yeah, we love our animals in books too. Yeah, especially for kids, for sure. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. So tell me, okay, first of all, we haven't talked about when the book launches. So when is this book? The book is available for pre-order now?
Yeah, so it's available for pre-order. You can go to the Blue Balloon website, so it's just blueballoon.com, and go to the bookstore. And you can search up Helo Girls, and there's other books that are available too. It's also available for pre-order on Amazon. Amazon's great, but they take a chunk. So I'm trying to guide everybody towards a publisher. But honestly, as long as you get the book, I'm pretty happy with that. If you pre-order it, then you should get the book by January 16th is the full release published date.
That's release date. Awesome. Okay, that's great. We're so excited. And so what do you think the timeline is on the next couple of books?
Well, so again, because we did the hybrid publishing, I would really like to recoup what I have in before moving forward, or even at least get close to that. I'll have everything written and ready to go once that happens, and I'll just then just send it to the publisher again and be like, let's go again. I know what it entails this time, so that hopefully it would come out a little bit.
Do you have any events planned that people can hope to see you and get a copy of the book that we know about right now?
So locally, I've started a nonprofit. We're still doing the paperwork for the nonprofit status, but called the Space Coast Women in Aviation Alliance. And the whole intent of what we do is we reach out to our community to educate young girls about the diversity in aviation. And I'm not meaning diversity about nationality, but diversity in you could be a helicopter pilot, you can fly corporate jets, you can do upholstery, you can do marketing with aviation companies, food service prep. I mean, tons of stuff in aviation. There's an opportunity for you in this industry. So we actually have an event in February at the Florida Institute of Technology. So I'll have a booth up there and sell and sign books. I'm also a board member with the Central Florida Business Aviation Association, and we have our annual Business Aviation Day at Shelter at Daytona Beach. I'm going to have a table there as well. I am trying to work with a couple of companies, or highly focusing on these two companies, whoever says yes first, but I would like them to sponsor the purchase of a few hundred books, and then I could be at their booth during Heli Expo. So
Perfect.
that's
Yes.
my big goal. Other than that, I've been reaching out to a lot of museums, specifically like there's a Canadian museum in Manitoba that I went to. They're interested in getting the book. I was speaking to, I think it was Southern Illinois Airport. They're going to put some in their FBO. So that's just kind of how I'm reaching out to is airports and museums just to see if there's an opportunity to sell the book there.
Excellent. Are you a member of Women in Aviation International?
I am not. I love these big organizations. I do. I find a lot more pleasure personally focusing really small where I'm at in my community. I've gone to their events. I love the women who do these things. I'm happy to help. I haven't officially joined. I probably need to do that though.
Well, you don't have to be a member just because you're an author. You are invited to come to the conference in March. It's at in Orlando this year, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
the
did. I
one
looked at that.
who, yeah, yeah. So I'm the one who kind of helps schedule the authors. So I would love to see you there too.
Yeah,
To
I actually
represent
went on the
there.
website like a couple weeks ago, and I think I put my name in the hat for that, whatever that looks like.
Awesome. That will be great. So we'll see you there too. That's great. It sounds like you've got lots of action and lots of opportunities to introduce this book to your audience. I'm so excited for you. Where are you on social media that we can find you and follow the progress of this book?
Yeah, so I'm mostly on LinkedIn. I do not have a Facebook. I'm not a Facebook fan. I don't know. I think it's the military me. I'm not super keen on social media. I know, and I have been told I have to branch out more, especially as I go in this endeavor. I actually tried to set up a Facebook page like 2 weeks ago. As soon as I put my name and my phone number in there, it locked me out and it said my information wasn't accurate or it didn't match. I was like, well, I didn't put anything in. So I did like click here and we'll see what's up. And it let me back in. So I went on my site. So I'm not a Facebook talker. So if I say something wrong, by all means, but I went back in and I changed the settings. So like nobody could see me and I didn't want anybody to reach out to me. Me personally. And I was going to set up a page for Abby and the Helo Girls. And so I started to do that and then it kicked me out again. It since has not let me back in. So I have given up.
I think Instagram is a really great place for stuff like this, to be honest with you. And if you are interested in like a little tutorial, I'm happy to give you.
Yeah, I might take you up on that.
Maybe, yeah. I've learned quite a lot. I was nowhere except Facebook before I started this project, and I've learned quite a bit about that world. So I'm happy to help.
I'm just usually such a private person. Like I don't want to put it all out there. But I tell you, since doing this book, I have been.
Yeah, it's a new world, isn't it? No, I was the very same. As a military officer, also, as the senior defense official in a foreign country. There were a lot of reasons that I was not out there. And then so it was a big transition to be as exposed as I feel with this project. So I hear you. But
yeah, absolutely.
If you want to sell your book, it's got to be out there for people to find. And so, and for me to share. So like I can, once you get that Instagram up and running, I can help promote it across my stuff too, whenever you're posting. So I'm excited to be able to do that for you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to probably do a website soon too. So it's on my list.
Oh yeah. You definitely want a website too. Yeah, for sure. Well, Kodey, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share?
I just wanted to say, I'm the type of person I like to plan things out, and I really didn't have a plan with this one. It really just kind of happened organically how it all came to fruition. But if whoever is listening, if you have an idea for something, I don't care what it is, whether it's a book or something else, and you just feel it like inside your bones, just take one step forward towards that goal. You don't really know where it's going to put you, and here you could be today with your own, children's book and excited about it and speaking with great new people to promote it. So just one step forward, one step in that direction for your goal.
That's my theme song.
Is it?
If you take one step, you'll be closer to your dream than if you stay just where you are. Those are the words to my theme song.
I did not know that,
Cody.
I swear.
It's perfect. Thank you. And that's true about a book. And that's true about people who have dreamt of being a pilot their whole lives. Just take one step. And you'll be closer. Oh, perfect way to close this out. Kodey, congratulations. Good luck with all the book sales. I will be out here promoting your book along with all of our other wonderful books, especially those that feature helicopter pilots for our children. Thank you so much and good luck.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Thanks so much for listening. I'd like to thank Michael Wilds of Massive and Crew for his help producing this interview and his support of all things literary aviatrix. Blue skies and happy reading.